I just have to read this part of the statement from the office of the 45th president for you. He said, what is the difference between this and Watergate, where operatives broke into the Democrat National Committee? Here, in reverse, Democrats broke into the home of the 45th president of the United States. Your thoughts, Jill Wine-Banks?
I like that laugh. That was my thought. When I first heard that, I was actually on air as this was breaking, and I burst into hysterical laughter because it's so outrageous. I know that some people may think that. They are only people who listen to Donald Trump, because operatives did not break into his house and Democrats didn't break into his house. FBI agents had a search warrant issued by a judge finding probable cause that there was evidence of a crime at Mar-a-Lago, and therefore they had a legal reason for going there. So it's not at all like a burglary in the dead of night by former CIA agents who were part of the Bay of Pigs invasion of Cuba.
Right.
No, it's not at all like that. This is actual law enforcement. That's how law enforcement works in America.
Can you explain, as a prosecutor, Jill, what a lot of people have said is, do you know how much evidence there has to be for a judge to sign off on a search warrant for the home of a former president? We talked about this with Jeffrey Clark and John Eastman, that for a lawyer of a president, there's got to be a high bar. Can you explain what just happened yesterday?
It's a high bar for any American citizen to be subjected to a search. And a judge will take even extra caution if it happens to be somebody who happens to be the former president of the United States. The bar is very high. It isn't the same as what it would take to convict at a trial, which is beyond a reasonable doubt. But probable cause means it's more probable than not. And remember, there is a judge who has already found that John Eastman and Donald Trump, more probably than not, more likely than not, committed a crime. As far as the reporting here, we can, I would say, conclude that the reason for this search had to do with missing documents that were wrongfully taken from the White House and kept at Mar-a-Lago. Some of those are highly classified and pose a national security threat. We don't know if those are the ones that they were looking for. We don't even know for sure that it was documents that belong to the government and not to Donald Trump that they're looking for. But we do know whatever they were looking for, if they find other things that are evidence of crime, they can take them if they're in plain sight. They have to be within the exact precincts of what the subpoena says. So if the subpoena says they can search his safe, they can search his office, they can search his bedroom, all of that is fine. That means they can't go into the lobby. It means they can't go into the bed, whatever room isn't named. But if they find something there, then in the places that are specified, it's fair game.
What, Jill, I know this is probably all speculation at this point. None of us know, but why do you think, because this has been going on for months, why wouldn't he give these documents up? I mean, to me, this smacks of national security. As you just said, that they were saying these are so classified, they couldn't even mention them before, what was in them. So, I mean, is it either, would your speculation be that it's very incriminating, or that there's a possibility he's selling them to our enemies? Why would he keep these documents, do you think?
Yeah, I'm one of those people who hates speculating, because we just don't know. But we do know
that's why you're a famous attorney and I work in my basement. Go ahead.
I would like to be more interesting and speculate, because as an American citizen, of course, I am speculating. But as a lawyer, I have to say, we don't know that there will be an indictment following this, and we don't know what those documents were. We do know that there was negotiations and that many boxes have been already removed from Mar-a-Lago. There were 15 boxes taken back to the archives where they belong. There's a law, the Federal Records Act, and also the Presidential Records Act, which say that it's government property and that he wrongly took them from the White House. There must be, since we're saying it's related to documents, there must be some that he refused to turn over, and that they have reason to believe he has, and that he would have them there. So what those documents are, we don't know. He took everything that included his, quote, love letter from the president of North Korea. He took a letter from President Obama welcoming him to the White House. He took some clothing. I don't know how that, it must have been a gift from somebody. But whatever it is, it was deemed important enough to send a search team in. And he obviously had stopped cooperating despite what his son is saying about their full cooperation. If there was full cooperation, no one would be asking for a search warrant.
Tell us the difference between a subpoena then and a search warrant. Because, and I know the answer because I saw you on TV yesterday. I'm pretending I don't know. But because he could have just done a subpoena, right? If he's cooperating, just give us these materials. But tell us why they went for a search warrant.
There are 3 levels of cooperation. One, and this happened in Watergate. Our first thing was not a subpoena to the White House. Our first was a phone call. Mm-hmm. Will you give us the tape recordings that Alexander Butterfield just said exist? The answer was no. The next step was a subpoena. And the search warrant would be a much more higher level threat, and it would take a lot more to get. You can't just get a subpoena. Again, a subpoena comes from, a judicial approval. And so you need some reasons, an affidavit that says this is why we're asking for the subpoena. But the subpoena is enforced by the law in the same way that a search warrant would be. But the search warrant means you have permission to go in and get it yourself. The subpoena is something that is a cooperation where the person who receives the subpoena then produces what you have asked for. And you have to ask for it in real specificity. You have to say, I want memos, I want videotapes, I want audio recordings. Everything that you want must be spelled out. And sort of the same thing is true in a search warrant. You have to say what you're looking for. But you can be a little bit broader in saying evidence that may show the crime of. Now, we haven't seen the search warrant. And so we don't know what crimes were spelled out there. We're only somehow getting this from reporting that the crime has to do with missing documents.
Right. But what I'm saying is the difference between the subpoena and the search warrant means the judge has reason to believe that documents are going to be destroyed, right? Or hid.
No, not necessarily that they would be destroyed, just that they are not being produced pursuant to either negotiations or a subpoena.
Okay.
And that they wouldn't be produced by a subpoena.
Okay.
Doesn't mean that he'll destroy them.
So,
although we know he has destroyed documents. I mean, you've seen pictures.
Yeah.
Although I question those pictures too.
Oh, all right. Well, that's why.
Well, first of all,
again, that's why there's a movie. Who's playing you? Who's playing you?
Katie Holmes.
Yeah, that's why there's not a movie with Katie Holmes playing me, because
she has a new movie out in which her 16-year-old daughter Suri sings Blue Moon. And I'm telling you, that girl has a great voice.
Wow.
She is going to be a jazz singer. Just go on YouTube and ask for Suri Cruz Blue Moon.
Okay.
It's
wow.
fabulous.
I'm going to do that
I'm
now.
shocked that she's 16. I'm sorry.
I know. We're like, how old are we? Oh, my God. So it's obviously also speculation that somebody Trump trusted has turned on him, and speculation about Cipollone, Mark Meadows. How would they know it's in a safe? What is your take on that?
That could be from those sources. It could be from prior negotiations. Remember, the FBI was there and removed documents. I'm sure that there were conversations about where did these come from. And so when he says they broke into my safe, well, they didn't break into the safe. They had reason to enter the safe. They knew that there was a possibility that that's where he would have purloined these documents. Where would you store documents that you had no right to have? You wouldn't keep them on your desk in full display. Of course, you're not Donald Trump either, so Trump might do that. You might, but you wouldn't, right?
In the toilet. In the toilet is where I would. Okay. Now, legally, is butt Hillary a defense? All right. That was a joke. Now,
her house never got searched.
No. She seemed to be sipping Chardonnay last night. So, Jill, again, we don't know exactly what's happening, but people are saying that by the time you are raiding the house of the former president, you're closer to the end than to the beginning. of an investigation. And I mean, he's such a crook that we all had to last night go, oh, which thing is this? Which crime? Which FBI, right? I mean, so now we seem to have confirmation, right, that it's the classified documents. But as you're saying, you don't know, they could have found other evidence of other crimes. We don't know. Well, what does this portend to you, and when?
It's, search warrants I have used early in an investigation to get evidence, to ask questions about, and to determine who are the other people I want to interview. But it is not uncommon. It's probably more common to use them at the very end when you have everything and now you're looking for the very last pieces that will tie this together. So it's I think we've seen enough evidence now. I, who was a very big doubter of the Attorney General, am willing to now say the Department of Justice is definitely taking Donald Trump seriously and is fully engaged in an investigation of multiple crimes. We know that they're looking at many crimes besides Records Act violations. And Records Act violations are not to be sneezed at. I mean, they're important. It's part of how we run our government, about transparency. It's also about protecting national security. We know he leaked information to the Russians from Israeli sources, so he's not above leaking. Now, the president can declassify. So anything that he has there, maybe he declassified before he took him out of the White House. Once he's out of the White House, he doesn't have that power. But did he declassify him? I don't know. That doesn't
Since
mean,
he lies about everything, is there a way we know when he declassified? That if he did declassify before he... Okay.
No, there isn't.
Yeah, because
there should be, because there is a process for declassifying and marking things as, taking off the classification marks. So maybe there is a way to find out if he's lying that he did it before, but that's tricky.
But you're right. He does think he has like spidey sense and superpowers after he left the White House, like executive privilege, and he doesn't. So you're right. If he said, "Oh, I did it when I got here," it's like, no, you weren't president anymore. That's right.
The minute he got on that plane at 12, well, maybe he got on before the inauguration started, but as of
he's a whiny loser baby,
he was not president.
Right. Sorry, whiny loser baby is a legal term. Okay.
Yes, I think that's a good one. And by the way, I should have, of course, said that it was, when we said Republicans, it was your father's presidential running mate who went to the White House and said, you will be convicted in the Senate if you do not resign.
Yeah.
So let's score one for your father.
Yeah, right? It was John Dean that wrote the original, what was Barry's book, Conservatives with Conscience, and then Dean wrote Conservatives Without Conscience.
Exactly.
Yep. Yeah. Interesting. Well, anyway, I guess we're just curious at what stage what investigation is, because we don't even know what all is going on.
And that's the important thing to know, is we don't know. I originally said, they would never issue a search warrant for these documents because there are so many other steps prior to doing that. That was my first reaction when I heard it. Now, as I read the reporting, and Betsy Woodruff-Swan said yesterday on a panel I was on that, she had definitely confirmed that was what it was. And as I said, I haven't seen the search warrant, so I can't say that that's what it says. But I think she's a very credible reporter, and so I take her point of view and think, well, then maybe it is just that.
Yeah, you mentioned national security, and we were saying, is it Russia stuff? What with Paul Manafort finally admitting what we all knew from the beginning, that he shared internal polling data with Russia. I mean, he's finally admitted. So I'm just wondering, what stuff we're going to find, what's in there, Russia stuff, incriminating, but something that may impact national security.
It could be, who knows, it could be related to Ukraine, which is certainly, his withholding, even for a day, and it was more than a day that he withheld getting weapons that they very much needed in anticipation of what has now materialized into this horrendous, improper attack, is really terrible. Yeah. Maybe it has something to do with that. We just don't know. The good thing about government documents is there's seldom only one copy.
Nice.
And unless they're his handwritten notes, there's someone else created.
And Jill, real quick, just since you brought that up, the Secret Service and Homeland Security and Pentagon texts, Is your take that we will find those, that they are somewhere, or?
Yeah, I mean, unless it was done so deliberately by a real expert,
Yeah.
those things don't disappear. Things go from A to B. And we also have the senders and the recipients. We know who the agents are who were on duty at the time, or supposedly we now do, because the government has turned over the phone numbers of those agents.
Yeah.
And so that means they have the names of those agents. Let's ask the agents, what was going on that day? What's your memory?
Yeah.
And let's do it sooner rather than later,
Yeah.
before memories fade.
Maybe they got the expert that acid washed Hillary's risotto recipes. Okay. These are the jokes.
That would be a good one. Yes. I mean, it would take a real expert to actually make them disappear from the cloud. And of course, that is a clear violation of the Records Act.
Yeah.
Because you cannot wipe a phone clean without uploading them, because everything on that phone is a government record.
Yep. Yeah.
There's a clear violation.
Only from the
I
day they
never
tried
did
to
it.
overthrow the government, Jill. It's not like it was an important day. Wow. Okay. 10 times Watergate. To the 10th power on steroids.
Way worse.
Yep.
Way worse.
All right. Thank you, honey. Can't wait for the movie.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right.